Welcome to the MFR Coaches podcast, where we talk about how you can create a six-figure MFR practice. I'm your host, Heather Hommel. Not only have I been practicing MFR for 11 years, I'm also a life and business coach, especially for MFR therapists. My goal is for you to understand how to get fully booked, how to talk to your clients, and how to make sure they understand what's possible for them with MFR treatment. I'm here to help you stop under-earning, overworking, and burning out. I'll lend support so you can create the MFR practice you've always wanted. Learn how you can do it too, even if you live in a tiny town, and even if you're just starting out, and even if you've ran your practice for years. Let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the MFR Coaches podcast. I have a very special and fun guest on today. It's my lawyer, and she is going to give us all of the details of how to have a legally sound business and practice. So, you want to introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mairin. I am with Solivagant Legal, and I'm not even going to tell you how long I've been a lawyer. Let's just say a long time. And I've been running my business for a little over 5 years now, I think. But primarily what I do is contracts and intellectual property protection, like trademarks, and then consultative legal advice for business owners. So whether it be a solopreneur who is brand new to online business, or I work with some 8-figure corporations, it runs the gamut. But I am here to help you learn a little bit more about how to protect your business.
Amazing. I know there's so many people that are probably listening to this and they're like, yes, feeling like they hit the jackpot, because there are just some of these lingering questions about what is required, especially like on a website or whatever. So let's start with that. What is legally required for us to have on a website, disclaimer wise, or so forth and so on?
Sure. And speaking of disclaimers, one disclaimer that I will make is if you are listening to this episode and starting to freak out and feel overwhelmed and worry that something bad is going to happen, please don't. When it comes to legal, I always say you don't know what you don't know. And literally almost none of this is intuitive. So if you didn't know that you need a privacy policy on your website, which we're going to talk about in a second, you're in the majority. I mean, this is not intuitive. So when you have a website for your business, you need 3 policies: a privacy policy, a terms and conditions policy, and a disclaimer policy. So in a nutshell, those 3 policies, the privacy policy is an absolute legal requirement. Whenever you're collecting personal information from somebody coming to your website, and this could be a name and an email address, if you have some sort of opt-in, if you allow online booking from your website, which is most of you probably, that's name, email address, financial information. You are collecting personal information, and the law requires you to have a compliant privacy policy. And these go at the bottom of your website's footer. You've all seen it. You've all been to websites that have these policies. The next is terms and conditions. And this is kind of like your website's rule book. This is where you're going to outline what's acceptable behavior on your website and what's not. Some of you might have blogs. Some of you might allow comments on those blogs. The terms and conditions policy is going to walk through what's acceptable behavior. What can people say and what are they prohibited from saying? What could get them kicked off and banned from your website, that kind of thing. And again, it's going to have a little bit as far as payment if you're accepting online payments on your website. Disclaimer policy is very important for MFR therapists, because what a disclaimer policy is it's like a liability shield in the sense that it protects you from somebody coming to your website and seeing something you've posted and then either using or misusing your information and getting injured and claiming that it's your fault. So maybe, for example, you talk about a specific supplement or some other practice, or you share videos kind of displaying a little bit of your technique so people can get a little bit of exposure to you before and your method before actually booking an appointment with you. And the disclaimer policy is going to say basically like they assume the risk of trying this at home. You aren't liable for any of that. It's also really important if you have any social proof, which for most business owners, we all have some sort of social proof, testimonials. It's going to say that this is the experience of one person. You're not making any guarantees that they're going to have the same experience, et cetera. So that's protection for you, for somebody seeing a testimony on your website about how great your service was, and then somebody else not having a great experience and saying, well, I saw this testimony on your website. I want my money back because I didn't get her experience. Some of you might, I've seen a number of MFR therapists with affiliate links, like maybe you're promoting a certain supplement or product or something. The FTC in the US requires that you disclose that as an affiliate link. So I've seen Amazon links too, a lot of Amazon affiliate links. Again, that needs to be disclosed. And the best place to disclose that is in the disclaimer policy of your website. So those are the three biggies. And they are, pretty much you need those whenever you have a business website.
Mm-hmm. So would it be okay if someone just like copied and pasted from someone else's terms and conditions? Or is this something that they need to have actually paid for this information before they put it on their website?
No, to copying and pasting for several reasons. Believe it or not, as dry and as boring as a legal document is, it's still copyright protected. So like if somebody were to come to my website and look at my website policies, like I literally say at the top that this is copyright protected. It's somebody's original work. So you can't copy and paste something that somebody else created. Also, the bigger risk is that you are copying and pasting something that's not in any way tailored to your business and your business's needs. So what good is copying a disclaimer from, I don't know, a website that sells flooring for your MFR practice? It's just like, it's not going to do anything for you. So it's really important to get, like I have templates, fill in the blank templates that you can get you just literally pump in your information and you're good to go. And it is going to be tailored for your business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Speaking of affiliate links, I will have my affiliate link at the bottom of the show notes for you to go buy those templates. Full disclosure. Okay. Amazing. So you make it easy though, because as part of your business model, you make templates for these specific reasons and they're easily customizable for whatever business.
Exactly. And that was one of the goals when I started my business. Like yes, I'm a lawyer, but I'm also realistic enough as a human being in the world to realize that this is not fun and it can be incredibly painful. Like trying to Google a lawyer in your area, you're going to get inundated with listings of lawyers. You have no idea who they are, what they do, whether they're any good, how much you're going to have to pay at the outset. And I've seen this over and over again, and people just get overwhelmed. They start with good intentions and then they get overwhelmed and then they do nothing. They put their head in the sand and then don't look at it again until there's a problem. And it's much easier and less expensive to sort this out at the beginning before there's a problem than to try and correct a problem that has started to snowball. So yes, that's one of the reasons I wanted to create a spectrum of products where somebody could get the website templates, for example, and have their website ready to go and protected and compliant in less than 10 minutes. Versus then there are other people like, business owners at your level who started with templates. I hope it's okay to say that, but now we work together one-on-one because as a business grows and evolves, so do its needs and so do its legal needs.
Yeah, exactly. And what she's alluding to there is when I started, for instance, my coaching business, and I'll also just be very clear, I never knew any of this stuff until I knew this stuff while I was creating this coaching business. But when I was an MFR therapist, I didn't have any of this stuff. So I'm lucky that nothing ever happened to me and nothing went wrong. But for everybody that's listening to this, I don't want you to ever put yourself in that situation to risk your business or risk your reputation because you don't have these things in place just because nothing's happened yet. And then now in my coaching business has become a 7-figure business. So now my needs have changed. I've gone from making $100,000 to making $1 million. And now, we protect things at a much higher level where we're in contact much more often. Not because anything is going wrong, though. I'll just say that, but just to keep things clean. All right. With that said, tell me a little bit more about the common mistakes you see with people. I guess is the most common thing that you see is people just don't have these and they wait until there's a problem, or what else do you see?
So yes, the most common mistakes I see are just lack of knowledge. And again, that might sound judgmental. I don't mean it to be. Everybody has a lack of knowledge
Yeah.
when they start a business. So it's not having the right documents and policies in place. So it's not having the website policies. It's not having the right contracts in place. It's either I've seen therapists not using contracts at all. And I see that more frequently when therapists are starting out, but I've seen it, even experienced practitioners, they haven't prioritized it and they've lost a lot of money too because of it. Because if you don't have a contract, you can't enforce a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also seen reliance on generalized contracts that a therapist might have tried to adapt for their business, but it's not quite right. And it's missing a lot of important provisions that are necessary for an MFR business, the legalese that protects them, that every contract should have, but also just little key nuances that people might not think about until, unfortunately, it's an issue, like a chargeback, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know what a chargeback is until they're experiencing one. And if you don't have a chargebacks provision in your contract, which most of these contracts don't have, you have no ammunition with which to fight the chargeback. And what I also see too is when people are using these really general contracts, which they have no idea where they've gotten it from, or maybe they've gotten it from a business coach, bought an online course and that coach is giving out contracts. Again, it's not adapted specifically for MFR, for their type of business. And so it doesn't have something like that simple provision. And so they don't really have any faith and trust in their documents. So what I see is they end up getting walked all over. Like, yes, the chargeback provision, but just even a cancellation provision, a strong cancellation provision, because a lot of times they don't know what their contract says, or they don't really have faith and trust in it because they don't know where it came from. So they don't end up enforcing their own policies. And that's a huge one I see.
Yeah. I was just going to say, we could think about contracts in the way of it's just your policy written out and the client is agreeing to be involved in your policies. So that can be your cancellation policy, your refund policies. Those are actually contracts that you're getting into with the client. How would you say would be best practices if you don't want to inundate your clients, the clients that are coming in for care? You don't want to give them a 40-page document. You just want a 1-page, this is my cancellation policy, this is my chargeback policy, this is my refund policy. Can that all be in one document and they're signing it? Or how does that work? Do I just literally give them a 30-page document? Or how are we doing this in a way where it's easy and efficient and not awkward?
And it's such a great question too, because we never want protecting your business to be a barrier to entry. So, and whether that's actually real or an imagined barrier to entry, I know some therapists are like, well, what if they see this long document and all this language, it's going to put them off booking with me. I just want to get them in. Maybe I just get them in for the first service and then I give them the long contract once they've already seen the benefit of working with me. So that's actually one thing that Heather and I are working on that I'm so excited about is creating a document bundle specifically for MFR therapists that is going to have all of the documents that you need, but it's going to be specifically drafted for MFR therapists. And it's going to have everything from HIPAA to your cancellation policy to chargebacks, not to talk about things that we already talked about, but it's going to have all of that in these documents. And it goes about against every fiber in my being to be brief, but I've gotten my edict from Heather as far as brevity. And it's going to be as efficient as possible. So it's still going to have legalese because it's their contracts and policies. They have to have certain language to protect you and to protect your business, because this is you and your business on the line. But it's going to be as streamlined as possible. We're going to have a client intake form, et cetera. So that's coming soon, but it's really, really exciting.
Yeah. It is really exciting and fun. And also, I think, I was like, please make these, but don't make them weird. Like, don't, like, we have to like consider the audience, the people that are opting into this. But one thing I'm loving about this idea of making this document bundle for MFR therapists is that it makes their job so easy because they don't have to really think about, well, other than like, what is your exact cancellation policy? How many hours do people have to cancel? Those things you're still gonna have to decide on, but it's so laid out, like you're making really quick, clean decisions. It's like, how many hours does someone have to contact you to get a full refund? Are there refunds? Yes or no? And it's just really following this tree of decisions, and you're not just in the woods by yourself without a map, not knowing what to do. The other thing is when you have a contract like this, it helps you to actually enforce your policies. And I know something that's been coming up a lot for my clients that are in my coaching program is they make these awesome policies, but they forget that they need to have the ability to enforce the policy. And your policy is only as good as your ability to enforce it. And they don't think about the enforceability on the end of like what happens when someone doesn't do what you said, or you only have it in one blip on your website and there's nowhere for them to actually agree to being a part of that policy. So when you go to demand that they pay you for their missed appointment from someone you've never met, you're never getting that money. So we want to make sure that they're set up to always be in a position where they get paid no matter what, according to their policy. And I think this is going to be very helpful for people.
Absolutely. And if you are a non-confrontational person, I say, let your contracts battle for you. It's in black and white. They agree to it. You have their electronic signature.
It's a legal document that would hold up in court. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think there's so much leaking energy. Like when you were talking about the decision tree, I'm like, that's the perfect analogy for it. There's anything you can do. We're all busy. Anything you can do to eliminate decision-making throughout your day is just going to give you so much time and energy back. And you don't have to think about it because you know exactly what you do in each scenario and you know exactly how to do it and how to enforce it.
Yeah. And these therapists want to be helping their clients, their patients. They want to be in the treatment room treating. This stuff is foreign to a lot of people. And it's the yuck that makes people not want to go into business, or when they are in business, that really sucks their energy and makes things seem really hard when they don't have to be hard. That's why I'm a huge proponent of coming up with all of your policies as soon as possible from the front end of your business, while you're determining your rates and all that, so you can decide how you want to experience your business, so that when you're in the treatment room, you are treating and you're doing the thing you love the most, but you're not doing that at the expense of your business by ignoring the really important things, right? So I think it's important to have all of those boxes checked, and you're going to feel more confident about your business and actually more successful when you have these things set up, because you're not just reacting to someone not showing up, you're responding. It's just a response instead of a reaction. So for anyone listening that's hearing this and you're like, wait, what? I could just be neutral when someone cancels. I would just know exactly what I do or what I say or how I handle this ahead of time. That is available for you. And I just want you to know how easy it can be.
Take the emotion out of it. Yeah. I mean, it's easier said than done to not personalize it, but you can, as much as possible, take the emotion out of it.
Yeah. The first time someone cancels, no shows, and you have to enact a policy, it stings. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. But the longer you're in business, that's just the things that happen naturally. And you build your tolerance and your stamina for dealing with these kinds of things, and you just normalize it. It is abnormal in the beginning, but it becomes normal. So for anyone, wherever you're at in any stage of your MFR business, it does get better, especially when you take the steps to make sure that you can get better at it, instead of just, like we alluded to in the beginning, like sticking your head in the sand and just pretending like, well, this doesn't happen to me or it hasn't happened yet. So I'm just like doing something better than everybody else. I don't have to deal with no-shows or cancellations or chargebacks because you're in business long enough, you will be dealing with those things.
100%. I mean, the more exposure you have, the more you grow, the more chances you will have of this happening. It's just the cost of doing business, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. The cost of doing business. Yes. You want to be fully booked and you want to make money right away in your MFR business. That's exactly why I created my Foundations coaching program. This program is for therapists like you who want to do MFR only and want to create a business where you never under-earn and you never burn out. Join Foundations right now. Enrollment is open November 8th through the 15th. When you join Foundations by November 15th, you'll be invited to join my special live 4-part website training where you'll walk away with the exact words and layout to attract your best fit clients into your business. No more guessing or looking over at someone else's website for ideas. So join Foundations now and don't miss out on that live special training. We're waiting for you and we can't wait to see the business you create and the success you're going to have once you have the support of the Foundations coaching program. See you there. Go to www.themfrcoach.com/foundations to join now. Okay, how do people know what to invest in first or how to prioritize their legal investments when they're running a business, an MFR business specifically?
I would say it depends on where they are in their business, because that's also going to dictate their budget. And I want to be sensitive to that as well, knowing that somebody might be in love with their business. This is their passion. This is whatever. But also the reality is that they can't do everything all at once. So I would say make sure that your website is protected. Like we said, all of those 3 things, those are, like I said, a privacy policy is a legal requirement. I'd make sure that you have your insurance dialed in. This is not something that we talked about previously in this session, but it's something really important whenever you have a brick and mortar business like your therapists have, is to make sure that you are aware of what your policy is, what it covers, and what it doesn't cover. And especially too, if you have a brick and mortar, but then you also have a website and maybe you sell digital products or you sell something tangential to MFR. Is that covered under your insurance policy? What are the, I hate to say loopholes, but what is covered and what isn't covered? It's something to be aware of because that's really important. Make sure you have your business, it's going to depend on where you are in the US. And like California, for example, LLCs can be very expensive to start. But have you thought about your business structure? This is for very new therapists. Have you set up your LLC correctly? If you've been in business a while, have you had a conversation with your accountant about maybe turning your LLC into an S Corp? There can be tax savings, that kind of thing. So getting back to not to go off on a tangent, but getting back to your original question, what to invest in first, make sure your website is protected. Make sure your contracts are sound. So whether that's meeting with an attorney and having them look at the current contracts you have in place, talking to Heather about the document bundle, which I would highly recommend, whatever it is, I would recommend doing that sooner rather than later, especially if you have no idea what you're using and you've never worked with a lawyer before, because I think that you're going to see dividends on that investment soon, in the sense that the peace of mind is priceless. Knowing that something that's been in the back of your mind is like, I'm not really sure if that protects me or not. And you know for a fact that either it does or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you know what you need to do. That is, like I said, is priceless. So that's an important investment. So we talked about business structure, insurance, website, and contracts. And then depending on where you are in business, you might want to start thinking about trademarking. I don't know how too into the weeds we want to get with this, Heather, today or not. I mean, we could talk for hours about all the different nuances, but there are different investments at different stages. But I would say primarily business structure, insurance, website, and your contracts and policies.
Okay, perfect. I think I would like to take this in a little bit of a different direction because I know people out there that are listening that maybe they have never worked with me before, but they've got a successful MFR business and they are hiring. So can you kind of speak to the importance of knowing the difference between an employee and an independent contractor and just any advice you have related to those two things?
Yes. And I'm glad you brought this up because this is such an important question, especially this year. The FTC or at the beginning of the year, I think, can't remember the timeline, but anyway, issued a new rule about the classification of employees and independent contractors. So at a very high level overview, there are independent contractors and employees. And with employees, generally speaking, and then I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail, but employees, you as the employer control the manner and direction of how and where they work. So you tell them where they work, you tell them when they work, you tell them how they work. You supply any and all equipment. For the vast majority of employees, they're not allowed to work for anybody else. They work for you and they work exclusively for you. Now, independent contractors, it's a little bit different. Independent contractors, they generally use their own equipment. For brick and mortar businesses like most MFR therapists, you have your own place of employment that contractors are going to go to. So you're controlling where they work. But independent contractors generally, yes, they might be doing MFR, but you're not saying, okay, now you do this, and now you do this, and then you touch their elbow, and then you do this. Like you're not dictating how they conduct a therapy.
Interesting. So if you have someone that's working in your business as a contractor, you can't dictate how they treat your patients.
Generally speaking, you can, but like I'm saying, like you can't say, and then you touch their left arm and then their right, and then you do this.
But you could say we only do MFR here.
Correct. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Just want to clear that up.
Yeah. No,
someone's in there doing like Swedish massage when you're at an MFR clinic, it would just be a little bit awkward.
Yes, exactly. I meant that you can't say this is the Mairin Van Shura method of MFR, and you have to, here is your 83-step protocol, and you absolutely have to do this. And you can't deviate from it. Like independent contractors have more flexibility and more freedom, but you can absolutely, you're not going to hire them to do something other than MFR.
Can you also hire an independent contractor to work between the hours of like 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday? Or is that like...
Yeah, absolutely. If you need coverage during that period, that's like with brick and mortar, it can get, the lines can get a little bit more blurry like that, but yes. It's going to be really important, though, with independent contractors to make it very clear in a contract with the contractor, they're an independent contractor, not an employee. They don't get any employee benefits. So things like vacation pay, holiday pay, you wouldn't pay a copywriter that you're coming in to help you out with your website. You're not going to pay them Christmas, right? You're just not. You pay them the days that they work on your contract. Yeah. So same thing with somebody coming into your MFR business. So you make it clear, no employee benefits. Again, I just said no employee benefits, no holiday pay, no vacation pay. They're responsible for all their own taxes. They're responsible for ensuring that they're complying with any sort of licensing requirements, maintaining their own insurance for their own business. So it's almost like, if you think about it this way, independent contractors have their own business. They come in as a member of their business to work in your business, but whereas employees, you're bringing them in as part of your business.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference. And I think it is a little bit hard to wrap your brain around because it does seem very similar, but employees like are dedicated working for you. They could technically have another part-time job if that's okay. Like you probably have to give a blessing to that to some extent, but independent contractors, it's their own business and they, as part of their business, probably contract for multiple different.
They're like a freelancer. They freelance multiple businesses. And you as somebody who's hiring an independent contractor can't say, you can't go work for anybody else, or this person is a direct competitor of me, you can't go work for them. Now, what you can do to protect yourself and protect your business is you get a really good independent contractor agreement. You work with a lawyer to draft one, or you get a really good template and make sure it has things like non-solicitation provisions. So you know that they're not trying to solicit your clients. Or there could be ramifications if they do that, because the last thing you want is to be paying somebody who's then going to poach your clients. You can have non-disclosure requirements inside a contract. So that's not just protecting the confidentiality with your patients, your clients, but it's also protecting any sort of business information that they would have access to as somebody that's working inside your business. So your client list, your patient list. I keep using those two interchangeably.
I do too.
Okay. All right, good. That kind of thing. So it's protective language for your business whenever you have somebody that's going to have exposure to your personal information, your intellectual property, and working with your patients/clients one-on-one.
Yeah. And I think too, one other big difference between employee versus contractor, when you are an employer, you're paying some sort of taxes and some sort of like unemployment insurance. There's like other fees associated with that you are paying out of your business pocket for those employees.
Workers' comp, unemployment. Exactly. And it's really important because the IRS, if you misclassify somebody as you're calling somebody an independent contractor, but they're really acting like an employee, that can have huge tax ramifications. So you want to make sure that this is buttoned up and make sure that the lines as clearly as possible are very clearly drawn as to this person is a contractor. They are not an employee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. And I think too, you have to really ask yourself some questions when it comes to that. Like, does this person tick all the boxes of independent contractor, or are they getting into the employee level? And can you afford it? Right. So making sure that you can afford those different scenarios and everything that comes with it. There's always a way to afford it. It's just really asking yourself the question so that you make that happen, I think is important. One of the things we cover in my mastermind. So, okay, good information. What else should we cover? I'm trying to think of, we covered all of the website stuff. We covered what about non-competes? What would you say about the FTC rule around non-competes?
Oh, so I was going to say it's an interesting one, but it's probably only interesting to lawyers. Everybody else is like,
fine. I'm interested.
So the FTC came out with a rule banning non-competes. And that's a pretty huge thing to just say.
I'm kind of glad about this. I just want to say, because I think a lot of before you tell us the story, a lot of therapists have been locked into these non-competes, and it has caused them to under-earn for years, right? They've worked for someone else, they've been locked in, and it's screwed them over in some sort of way. And so in that aspect, I'm super excited about this because I want people to have the freedom to leave and open their own businesses.
Absolutely. Here's the thing though. Anybody who had read up on it knew that this was going to be litigated into the ground because it's a lot of overreach for the FTC to just concoct this.
Okay.
And so it's been a Texas court, I think in August, said it was overreach. And so the FTC doesn't have the power to set out a rule like that.
Okay.
However, that said, I still think we're going to see non-competes have to be, in order to be enforceable, they have to be extremely narrowly tailored. And it varies from state to state on how closely they're enforced, how strongly they're enforced, I should say. But they have to be extremely narrowly tailored. And courts, when they're evaluating a non-compete, whether to permit the non-compete or not, are looking at whether does this handcuff somebody's right to make an income for themselves? Do they have to drive 500 miles to be able to set up their own MFR business? is this reasonable or is it overbroad? So what I would say is, we don't know what's going to happen with the courts. I don't think this issue is done for good by any stretch of the imagination, especially as it continue to see businesses evolve and the economy evolve and the gig economy growing, et cetera. But I would say if you are in a position, anybody listening who thinks they are subject to a non-compete, a lot of the times, most non-competes I've seen are standard boilerplate that somebody has picked up from somewhere and they've used it in every single contract. And the thing is so broad that it would never be enforceable. Before you make potentially life-altering decisions based on something you think you read in a contract, have a lawyer look at it and give you an opinion, because it may be something that you're like, or the lawyer will say, there's no way that this is going to be enforced. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and risk it. But again, something like that could jeopardize your livelihood, your ability to make money, or keep you stuck in a situation that's not working for you, is just have it looked at. Don't just say, I signed this, I'm stuck. No, chances are you might have some flexibility there.
Yeah. And we're going to have your contact information in the show notes, because I think it's really important for everyone listening. Before you sign a contract, have someone like Mairin read your contract for you. The expense to have that read, or for her time, for you to pay for her time, is so low compared to how much money you could be missing out on, or the quality of your life if you got locked into something that's not good. So I think in general, people have good intentions when they are hiring people, or, if you're hiring someone, but just make sure that it is in your best interest. And I would pay for it. I think you're going to save a lot of money in the long run by having a lawyer review those contracts ahead of time.
Absolutely. You want to know what your rights are, what your remedies are, what you're agreeing to. I've seen some crazy things over the years.
Yeah.
Crazy things.
Yeah. Well, I've seen crazy things just from helping MFR therapists leave their underpaid positions to start their own businesses. And the fear of leaving it's a real thing, right? Like, they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to piss anyone off. But then on top of that, what are they actually like legally locked into? We have to look at that first a lot of times before we make any decisions to leave. So, and then you got to unwind all of that stuff in order to leave. So it can be stressful. And I think you can avoid a lot of that if you just have a lawyer review it before you sign on to it. And you think about, like, in 1 year, will this still align with where I want to be in 1 year? Does this align with where I want to be in 3 years? Does this align where I want to be in 5 years? What are your abilities to ask for raises? Like, all of those things I think are very, very important as the person being employed or contracted. And then as the business owner, how easy is it for you to get out of the contract with the person that you just hired? Because sometimes that also goes south, and you want to be in control of that too, so it doesn't ruin your business or ruin your experience of your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Is there anything else you'd want to share with anyone? Any more like tidbits you have?
I would say one other thing I just made a note of is, if you have any offers other than MFR, so maybe you have a workshop, or you have, I don't know, some sort of digital product or something. And this could be related to MFR, or it could be completely separate. Maybe you are a serial entrepreneur. Those need to be protected as well. So anytime you're accepting money from somebody in exchange for a product or a service, that needs to have a contract. It doesn't have to be a 20-page contract, but you need to protect your payments. You need to protect your intellectual property. If it's service related, you need to protect your time and your boundaries. So that's something that I would make sure that you think about. Again, I don't want legal to ever be a barrier to entry. I think of legal more as protection for you to help you sleep at night, give you peace of mind, but it's also the springboard that helps you make more money, because through whether you start an affiliate program, whether you license something you've created, whether you sell something that you recorded, you do a live presentation and then you sell it, whether you become a guest speaker, whatever it is, again, legal is a springboard. Have the right protections in place, and then you can sell it over and over and over again. Whether it's a passive digital product or something else, just make sure that you have the right contracts in place for that.
Yeah, perfect information. And we're starting to see a lot of that, right? Coming out of my mastermind, lots of people with second offers that help to serve the MFR community as well as other communities and, more of the broader world too, which is so fun because I just love MFR therapists and I think they're the most creative people on the planet. And so then to see all these things coming out of the mastermind is great. So, and we talk about this in the mastermind. You've come into the mastermind and personally, helped within the mastermind. And I know we'll have you back in there to talk to people again. I think it's just you can't put a high enough value on peace of mind and being able to sleep well at night. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from working with you. We've been working together for just, I think, almost like 18 months or so. And it's been awesome to whatever question I have, I can just come to you and ask you. We get it worked out. We've also created some fun offers like this bundle, the document bundle that'll be coming out shortly. Stay tuned, everybody. It's fun to see what you can create when you're not afraid of getting in trouble. And also you're protecting yourself from other people taking what is yours, your time, your value, which goes to people late canceling and no showing in your own MFR practice. Like you've got to protect that time and ensure that you are not losing money because you have wild clients that don't want to follow the rules that you set up. Keep everybody in mind. Awesome. All right. Tell everybody where they can find you, and then we'll also put your information in the show notes.
Sure. So my website, Solivagant Legal, which you're going to drop in the show notes, has resources, videos, checklists, guides. That's a great resource there. And then also the templates we mentioned are available on the website. And then you can also book a call with me if you need one-on-one services. You can do all that from my website. There's frequently asked questions and everything there, and you can contact me through that as well. I'm hesitant to say my Instagram because I've been so terrible. I don't think I've posted since April. It's bad, but I will check my DMs. So you can always contact me there as well.
Is it just your name, or how do they find you?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Solivagant_legal.
How do you spell Solivagant?
Solivagant. Solivagant.
What does that mean?
Back to second grade spelling bee. So in retrospect, I thought this was clever when I first started my business because Solivagant is one of my favorite words. It means like solo traveler, somebody who relishes solo travel, solo wandering, which is a huge part of who I am. It's one of my favorite things to do in the world. Like if you go to my Instagram, you'll see all my travel pictures, etc., and my website. So I thought metaphorically, Solivagant Legal, when you start a business, it's like a solo travel trip without a guide, without a GPS. It's what entrepreneurship can be. But nobody knows how to pronounce it, spell it, or what it means. So in retrospect, I probably should have chosen something a little bit less esoteric, but
I like it though. And now I understand what it means. I thought it was like a legal term. So funny. We're nerds. That's so funny though. Yeah. And I think it doesn't matter that you don't post on your Instagram. Your Instagram is there and people will follow you and they'll like it, whether you post every day or not. It'll be okay.
I've been fully booked without it. I mean, I've missed the community. I've met and connected with great business owners. But
I think I found you on Instagram.
Probably. I mean, that's how I did all my marketing when I first started. It just became such a time slug. And I'd hired social media managers with mixed results. And I think there's something energetically with, and not just that, but like not to get too woo-woo, but like there's just my post that I did myself that came from my heart always performed so much better than which is not surprising. That's how it's going to be.
People just don't need anything fancy from us. Like they really just want to skip through the bullshit and like just tell us what we need to hear. And I think that when we keep that message, it also takes the pressure off of us to look or be a certain way on social media. Now, with that said, I do have someone that does my social media for me now, but it took me 4 years to get there. It costs a lot of money. And I like not having to be on there, but it is my words that are on there, So but that took a lot of work of getting very, very drilled down in the messaging, and also a lot of letting go to let someone else do it for me.
And I struggled with that whole relinquishing control. And it wasn't even like a perfectionism thing, which I've also struggled with. It was more, I felt legal captions needed to be drafted by a lawyer. So even when I had the team to do everything else, I would still write all the captions. And then, like, that's not that much of a time saver then anyway. So yeah, it'll be interesting though. I wonder over the next couple of years what we're going to continue to see. I see a lot of people stepping away from Instagram, and some moving to YouTube, some just relying on their email lists.
Yeah. Well, what I like to do, the fun tip, this is so random, you guys, but if you write a lot of emails, or you just have emails that you've written, that can all be repurposed into your social media content. So anymore nowadays, what I say in my emails just becomes my social media content. So I don't reinvent the wheel. And when I'm pouring myself out into an email, it's all the proper right things that I would say anyway. And so anyone can capture 2 or 3 really good sentences and put it on my Instagram, and it will make sense. So that is what I do. Little tip for everyone. But I also like for everybody that's listening to just see that why I love Mairin so much. Like, she's just a human being and has the same concerns we have about like working too hard on social media or showing up in the right way. And she's a lawyer. Like, this woman's amazing. And so is everyone else that's listening. So I just appreciate you so much, and appreciate that you would come on the show, share all of this information so freely with us, and provide this level of help for MFR therapists. Our community really appreciates it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Stay tuned for the document bundle, and don't forget to hit up my affiliate link in the show notes if you would like to use some of the services that Mairin offers, and be back with more information on another episode next week. Stay tuned till then, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a minute and rate and review the podcast. I appreciate it. For more information, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The MFR Coach. And check out my website, www.themfrcoach.com, for more information. If you are currently not working 20 hours or less and making 6 figures in your MFR business, I want to help you change that. Make sure you tune into the show and get on my email list so you never miss out on important trainings and information. To be the first to find out when we are enrolling next for my 12-month Business Foundations coaching program, get on that email list at www.themfrcoach.com/join. Inside this program, you'll learn how to raise your rate, overcome objections, and sell MFR. You'll become the MFR therapist that never under-earns and never burns out. It's up to us to make MFR mainstream, and it starts with you and your successful MFR practice. See you next week.